John Denton, thank you very much for joining us on Trade Finance Talks TV here at the World Trade Symposium.
Thank you very much for having me. Great to be in New York. Great to have a chat.
Yes, absolutely. So, a day in the life of, I guess, your role as Secretary General at the ICC and also the United Nations Global Board. What does that look like and what does that mean on the day-to-day basis?
Wow, a great question. Well, maybe I'll answer it this way. So, my job really is focused on transforming the ICC to ensure that it's relevant and plays its historic role, but in the context of the 21st century. So it's in a way, it's a big responsibility because ultimately we are the institutional voice of 45 million businesses globally. What I've been working on, particularly over the last 6 months, has been ensuring that our redefined purpose is fully understood, because that actually is incredibly important for the transformation. I mean, we enable business worldwide to secure peace, prosperity and opportunity for all. That plays homage to our founders in 1919 who believed that if goods could cross borders without the need to be accompanied by troops, then there was a higher probability of peace, prosperity and opportunity for all. So we come from that kind of DNA. We genuinely believe that the private sector, when unleashed, is actually a force for good. And our job at the ICC is to do that. Clearly, to ensure that we have clarity around our purpose is critical for this whole issue of ensuring that we're relevant in the 21st century. At the same time, I need to align the organisation. So I work on things like what's called transformation. So working on transforming the public position of the organisation, the way that the organisation operates to support that, the culture. I'm looking at the economic model. There's lots of things. And simultaneously, I need to advance the cause. So advocacy is critical, communicating is critical, and there's just stuff you've got to do. We're not only repurposing the organisation and getting focus across this 45 million by running 5 organising campaigns which really help us get organising principles, but we also have to give truth, the authenticity to the idea that we are the World Business Organisation. So how to re-weight our mindset? So we've established a hub in Asia Pac. We already have physical presences in New York and London. We actually have, through our network, we have over 100 countries. We have more than that when we combine the chambers of commerce that are part of us. But that's great, but we need to ensure that we're reweighting our activity and the way in which we organise ourselves to reflect that. So at the moment, I'm in the process of creating a model which will have us have hubs to represent more effectively the Pan-Arab business world, the African business voice, the Latin American business voice, the Asian business voice. We already have that as part of the story of the ICC, but what I want to do now is not just have organising principles, but actually put clear stakes in the ground to lend to our authenticity. Because what we bring is the voice of the institutional voice of world business into public policy debates. Our aim is to mobilise that effectively in a way to bend the world to help us enable business in the 21st century. And we've marked out some pretty clear spaces to do that around issues to do with maintaining and actually ensuring that the multilateral trading system is fit for purpose. We genuinely believe that we've got to have a planet that we can trade on, so we're working very hard on climate and action around climate. We actually think technology is a great enabler, so we're working on a campaign to make technology work for all. We think that if inequality rises in an unabated way, that will become an impediment to the operation of the market economy, and actually which is a huge driver of opportunity for business, but more importantly, to allow business to do what it does best, which is help build communities, create opportunities for people. So we think that's a real issue. And we think a lot of the short-termism that we see is a bad thing. So we're focusing on how do you lead for a long term. So we've articulated and captured that in 5 campaigns, which we see as organising principles, and we're working our way through that. We've issued a declaration of our intent for the 21st century as well. So we intend to be able to measure our process. So it's kind of a busy day.
Yeah, sounds extremely busy. So what are the 2 to 3 mega trends that you're seeing right now when it comes to global trade, and how is this affecting ICC members?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, actually. Maybe I'll respond this way. There's different dimensions which are really important. The first is the ability to trade. The second is how you trade. And the third is really, do you have the confidence of the global community to allow you to continue to trade? So there's issues there, I think, in terms of trends. I think challenges to maintaining open borders is important about the ability to trade. I think there's a real issue about the transformation of and structural change to the nature of trade. So the shift from just goods to services, the issue about free flow of data, how that will operate. And this is all in a way how the digital economy will operate. And when you think about, do you have the right to trade? There's a real issue about, I think, emerging issue around trust and confidence. Do we have the trust? Have we built the trust? Have we actually ensured that the global community trusts business to allow it to continue to trade? I think the answer to that is yes, it should, but we need to work on that. We need to work on this. And I think they are sort of different dimensions of this global trend around the ability to trade, how you trade, and the right to trade.
So here we are in New York, USA. There's lots of...
It's a beautiful day outside. Come on,
it's a beautiful
we can't
day
see
outside.
anything. Yeah.
We could be anywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess with all of the uncertainty and I guess the ICC's kind of mission to promote open multilateral trade, how are you dealing with this given that a lot of global counterparts are perhaps singing from a slightly different hymn book?
Well, stay true to your DNA. I mean, as I said, we've got a very clear purpose. We are a purpose-led organisation. Our purpose is about enabling trade. So clearly we need to ensure policy frameworks support that. So this whole issue about ensuring that borders remain open, we need to build capability to do that as well. So we need to ensure that businesses have the skills, ability, that they have the rules that they can work with, particularly in the new form of the economy, which is really the digital economy, that we don't leave anyone behind, that we ensure the digital economy is actually governed in a way that can enable trade as well, and we're focused on those sorts of things. I mean, the ICC is a peculiar beast. I mean, our size, the heft, I mean, it's actually unbelievable in a way, the size at which we operate, the scale at which we operate. But one of the treasures of the ICC, because of that heft, is we can create norms and standards. We can actually govern parts of the economy where governments cannot govern, because if parties want us to, because of the scale, we can create norms and standards which people can then apply. The genius of the ICC, if I can put it that way, is that we can not only set norms and standards, but because we created the leading courts of private arbitration, we're able to determine and adjudicate when there's disputes about the application of those norms. We have an ICC governance model. It's quite unique, it's quite distinct, and it's actually, I suspect, for the next period of time, particularly in the digital economy, when it's unclear what the capacity of global governments to reach an agreement which will allow for a commons there, a digital commons, that the ICC, our obligation as an independent, trusted institution, a not-for-profit with the ability to govern, we need to stand up in that area as well.
So one key theme that's important for the ICC is the green economy. How does sustainability and green finance, and I guess even the SDGs, link in with trade finance and the ICC's mission?
Well, it's sort of interesting for me. Maybe I'll just reduce it down to how I've been talking about, particularly when I'm talking outside major cities with smaller groups of people. Because there's always a question, I mean, why are we getting involved in climate change? Why are we actually talking about Paris? But the fact is you don't trade in isolation. And if you think about it in the macro, a lot of trade policy has, in a sense, been created in isolation. And there are other policy frameworks that have been created in isolation. But when you think about some of the big global challenges, they are, I think the term is used, transversal or global in nature. So some form of multilateralism needs to actually be applied in order to help resolve those issues. But why do we get involved in issues to do with climate and the environment? The fact is, businesses don't operate in isolation. They don't operate in a bubble. They're actually grounded in communities. They're grounded in communities which operate in an environment. They actually seek to operate within that. I actually, in my experiences, I don't know a business person who, looking at the SDGs, who wants to enslave workers as their principle. I don't know a businessman or businesswoman or businesswoman who wants to make it difficult for equity to apply to women in the workplace. I don't know a business person who actually denies the right of people for access to justice. I don't know a business person who wants to pollute around them. I mean, I know I'm putting it very baldly, but the fact is they already have an interest in the essence of what supports the Sustainable Development Goals. And because of the reality of how they operate, they have an interest in preserving and improving and creating a sustainable climate. They actually have an interest in the application of Paris to ensure we have a planet we can trade on, and SDGs to enable us to have a system like a market-based economy for us to operate in as well. And frankly, a lot of the other stuff around green nature of finance, this is all helpful, but part of that is actually shifting finance to respect the reality of the risk of not doing these issues and weighting it properly and making, therefore, finance available to support activities which are actually supportive of sustainable development and of Paris.
Great. And John,
I finally got there.
Of course. One final question, and I guess this is one for our younger listeners and our aspiring young leaders. What advice would you give to the young leaders of today's generation?
Oh, wow. Step up. Step up. There's a void at the moment. And if you look at I think the data, one of the disturbing features is that there's a lack of trust which has emerged at quite a dramatic pace in traditional forms of authority. Populations, employees are looking for business to stand up. Young people or mid-career people, you can't wait back. Don't wait to be asked. You bring something which is extremely important, I think, to the global debate. You bring your inexperience. That inexperience is actually fundamentally important because it allows you to say, why not? And I think that's one of the powers of stepping up at this point in time, because the established framework requires some significant and constructive disruption, which the next generation will bring.
Great.
Maybe I can help too.
Of course. John, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us on Trade Finance Talks TV.
Thanks very much. Great to be with you.